First on the ropes, then knocked out of the ring, but still up and swinging till the end.
Just appears to be, vengeance, personal ambition, factional feuding, whatever you describe it. Hasn't had anything to do with 25 million Australians.
Malcolm Turnbull came into the Lodge almost 3 years ago, believing he had the answers to Australia's political malaise.
We need advocacy, not slogans. And we need a different style of leadership. A style of leadership that respects the people's intelligence.
Born in 1954, Malcolm Turnbull was raised in Sydney's eastern suburbs by his father.
I think that the absolutely most important event in Malcolm Turnbull's life was the departure of his mother at the age of 8. I think it's made him into a person who is relentless.
Malcolm Turnbull cut his teeth as a young journalist with The Bulletin while studying law at Sydney University. He shifted to a legal career in 1980 and was hired as Kerry Packer's lawyer, aged just 28.
He was clearly a brilliant young lawyer, and that was an area where he obviously had a lot of skill. Perhaps he should have stayed there.
The fierce young advocate for free speech won a celebrated victory against the British government over the publication of the book Spycatcher. But it was as a trailblazing tech investor that he made his fortune with the Australian company Aussie Mail.
For the referendum.
Leadership of the Australian Republican movement first pitted Turnbull against his political nemesis, Tony Abbott.
Now, what's happened is that we've had 5 years of subtle and 2 years of not very subtle white-handing of our institutions.
We are going to win the referendum this year, and we are going to win it very well.
They didn't.
He was the Prime Minister who broke this nation's heart.
That experience helped cast Malcolm Turnbull as an unconvincing Conservative.
He's seen as not of their blood, I think, in some way, or slightly unreliable because of his moderate social views.
Entering Parliament in 2004, Malcolm Turnbull was briskly promoted to the front bench under John Howard.
We are seeing now the consequences of climate change.
And then elected party leader while in opposition in 2008.
Liberal leader after 4 years. What took you so long?
Kerry, I'll take that as a compliment.
He barely lasted 12 months.
If the Prime Minister and the Treasurer cannot immediately justify their actions to the Australian people, they have no choice but to resign.
A rash attack on then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd saw Turnbull's grip on the leadership begin to unravel.
My recollection is that there was a short email from the PMO.
But the smoking gun email turned out to be a damp squib. Turnbull's political judgment would soon fail him again.
I will not lead a party that is not as committed to effective action on climate change as I am.
When Malcolm Turnbull backed Kevin Rudd's emissions trading scheme, Tony Abbott pounced.
And the final ballot was won by Tony Abbott, 42 votes to 41.
42-41. We're going home to Sydney, and we'll work out where we go after that.
Climate policy story in Australia is a bloody one. It's killed and killed and killed again in Australian politics.
I want to thank Malcolm, and I now want to...
Despite their history, as Prime Minister, Tony Abbott tasked Turnbull with winding back Labor's ambitious vision for the NBN.
As Tony has said, our commitment is to deliver.
As Abbott's popularity as Prime Minister slipped, Turnbull struck again, taking the leadership back in 2015.
We have lost 30 news polls in a row. It is clear that the people have made up their mind about Mr Abbott's leadership. There's never been a more exciting time to be an Australian. And the leadership can change.
Yes, innovation and agility. Those were the two words that came out, and that's all we got. 2 words, neither of which really meant anything to the Australian people.
We can have every confidence that we will form a coalition majority.
Winning 2016's election by only one seat left Prime Minister Turnbull straddling a sea of compromise, caught between a hostile Senate and his own party's right wing. More bad polling and disappointing results in by-elections this year sealed Malcolm Turnbull's fate.
Here's a man of considerable ability, clearly, and yet he wasn't able to bring that ability into the field of politics, the one area where he really wanted to distinguish himself.
I think that probably history will recall him as a man who tried to be reasonable. And he's a man who tried to govern from the centre and who got blown up by the extremes.